Hello and welcome to a Blue Tube. This is episode 1 of our. Start again.
No, you're made for presenting. You are.
This is episode 1 of our Blue Tube, all about Birmingham City Football Club and try and keep it interesting. Sometimes.
That's terrible. That was. I've already clicked off now.
Should we go? Yeah. Hello and welcome to Blue Tube episode 1. My name's Neil. This is my son Ben, and we're going to talk about anything to do with Birmingham City Football Club and the things that have been happening, really positive, sometimes negative I suppose, but not much of that at the moment in the last 12 months.
I know, yeah, not much negative. What's going on with our club? Doesn't seem right, does it? It seems a little bit odd. But yeah, things are great at the moment, aren't they?
The thing is, I've supported Blues for a long time, and you just expect something to go bad. And I know people, if we get that one person watching, you're going to be like, oh, for God's sake, try and be positive. But I am. I really am. Anyway, the idea is that we are going to try and be really positive about what's been happening with Birmingham City Football Club over the last 12 months, really. Nighthead, Tom Wagner, bringing Gary Cook.
It's great, isn't it?
Yeah. But
it's our house, man.
FEA.
I won't do that again.
Yeah, I won't do that either. No.
Having Brady here is still kind of like a fever dream. It doesn't seem real. It seems a bit bizarre. It doesn't seem like. In what world? I mean, obviously this one. But how is Brady? I still think that it's just one of the most bizarre things that could happen.
I'm going to be absolutely honest with you now. The first time I ever heard really of who he was on an episode of Family Guy.
Oh yeah, was that the one where they did the shapoopy thing?
Yeah,
that's it. Yeah.
But then, it's like you see people mentioned on things like that, and then like for some reason you start noticing who they are in other things. But no, just to have all of them involved in our club, and I know there is negativity. We spoke to a guy after the game the weekend, Peterborough, didn't we? When we was waiting for a bloody taxi. And he was worried that we were going to lose sort of control of our club. We're going to lose the working class. And I don't think we'll ever lose that.
No.
Because that's just where we come from. And I'm a working class guy. You pretend to be working class.
If it's between that, and I know what it means, like tourism, getting more corporate because new stadium, it'll attract people who aren't necessarily your hardened working class, as you say, Birmingham fans. But if I had to choose between going that direction and the one that we've just averted with, BSHL and all of that, I mean, it's just doesn't even need answering. Obviously, I'll go this route.
Yeah,
so be it.
And like I say, where we are, we're moving up the road with the new stadium plans. I mean, that looks fantastic. We'll always be associated with it. It's not like they're moving us way out like they could have done. So I think that we'll never lose our roots. So going back to what's been going on the last 12 months, I mean, I wanted to touch upon, for seasons, my brother Russ, your Uncle Russ, has been saying we need to go down. We've been dancing with death about, ran that trapdoor for multiple seasons, and he said right from the off, we need to go down and reset. And one time I was like, well, yeah, maybe. But you know what? I strongly believe that now. Absolutely. And I know there's a lot of people that don't, and they think we couldn't have done what we're doing now if we'd have stayed in the Championship. We couldn't have spent the money.
Yeah.
We'd have been sort of on the borders. We couldn't have attracted what we've attracted. Maybe we could have, but I don't know. What's your feelings about how we've attracted some of these players in?
There's a few points that you can make. FFP for one. I don't know the ins and outs of it. I'm not an expert on this sort of stuff, but from sort of a baseline, top of the iceberg look at it, I know for a fact that we couldn't have spent the money that we've spent in League One in the Championship. Things would have stopped us there. I don't know who's in charge of negotiations. I mean, Tom Wagner, you hang off every single last word that he says, so some of the players that he's been able to bring in at League One have been absolutely outstanding. Getting a player who was playing Champions League football for Celtic last year, that Awata, I mean, my God. I remember us saying about Sunjic, I mean, no disrespect to Sunjic, I thought he was a wonderful player and a great servant for us, but I remember at the end of last season thinking, do you know what, maybe we keep Sunjic, maybe let him go, I think he'll do a job in League One. I couldn't even imagine. It's like chalk and cheese looking at a player like Sunjic with Paik or a Water and getting those sorts of players in League One. It's absolutely
Well,
unbelievable.
you've just touched on something that I've actually got noted down there that I wanted to
Yeah, I
do.
went off on a little bit of a tangent there.
Yeah, but I think it's a good time to actually let's start talking about the players we've brought in League One then, because we've had a massive overhaul. That wouldn't have happened if we'd have stayed in the Championship. And I wanted to discuss with you about what Chris Davis, and I know we've really jumped the gun there because we haven't even spoke about how we got him in and where he's come from, but we can touch upon that because we can do the global
It's
season.
a general chat as well. It's
Yeah,
a general Blues
it
chat,
is.
isn't it?
It's our first one, isn't it? So we can.
Bear with us.
But I wanted to, and we spoke about this very briefly earlier on, and I wanted to put this out there. We've got a team of partnerships. So, for example, we've brought in Clara to play alongside Bielik, and that partnership, people have all been saying it's like the old Scott Dan and Roger Johnson.
Yeah, back when I was a little
I
nipper.
actually think, okay, Premiership to what we are now, but the way they play together and the affiliation they've got with each other. And then you've already mentioned them, Iwata and Paik, another partnership that you wouldn't want to split that up at the moment. And from last night's game, last night it was against Huddersfield Town, beat them 1-0. I thought that was one of the best games of football. I know people yesterday were saying that the first half was terrible. But yeah, we always start slow at the moment.
I disagree with that personally. I
thought it was a great game of football.
I thought it was a good game.
I think if you'd have been watching as a neutral, you'd have enjoyed that game. We won it 1-0. And the other partnership I was going to mention that looks like it might come good, Alfie May, Jay Stansfield.
I mean, I was saying to you, wasn't I? I think it was for the Peterborough game. I could be wrong, but I remember Stansfield was being substituted, and I could have just imagined the away fans going, "Oh, thank God they're bringing him off now," only to see that the top league scorer of the last season is coming on to replace him. I mean, it's absolutely unbelievable. Not just the quality that we've got, but the depth as well. You speak about Clara and Bielik, and I know that you don't want to get too ahead of yourselves and think, comparing them to Roger Johnson and Scott Dan of Premiership quality, but another thing that I've considered.
But that's what we do, isn't it? We compare.
Yeah, of course, but what I was going to say was, I mean, you've got to remember this is a completely new squad and they've still got so much more time to gel yet. And I don't think that we've seen the best of them yet. I mean, obviously not. There's so much time to go in the season, and we've just started with them. Looking at last season and how things went with the manager that shall not be named, how unlucky we was with Mowbray being ill, the owner situation. I know United had come in at that point, but everything that we was used to where we are now.
Here's a comparison then for you
Chalk
on that
and
note.
cheese.
At any point last season, did we know what our starting 11 was every week? And then look at this season, you can pick any 11 really. I know what our nucleus is now. Pretty much what we played with yesterday against Huddersfield. But look at those players that come in and it just adds strength straight away. If you start with one from last week and then start with the reserve from last week, it seems to be... I know there's been some dodgy starts. The first 20 minutes we don't turn up, but then when we get into the, like the swing of things, you can bring anyone into any of those positions, and it's just like pressing the refresh button, isn't it? And putting new batteries in. And I tell you, I was worried about that lad Wright coming on from Rangers.
Yeah.
I know he scored that goal in his first game when he came on.
You get wrapped up in what other fans say.
You
don't
do, but when he came on against Peterborough the weekend, he was frightening.
That's 2 games that he's played, Huddersfield and the Peterborough game. Best I've seen him. The way he runs at the plays, it's electric.
So
absolutely scares him to death.
Talk to me then. What do you think that Chris Davis, who's come from Tottenham and number 2, never heard of him before he came to Blues, what's he done for Birmingham then?
Do you know what one of the biggest things was? And this wouldn't have been an easy thing to do. I think it's changing the culture. I don't think that that's just a Chris Davis thing as well. I think going down in another division has done that for us. But we all know too well, and painfully so, that the last decade for Blues has been a hard time. And we've been used to losing. You felt it in the ground. You felt it yourself, just speaking to other fans. And it was in and around the team amongst it. It was this losing culture, and we were suffering. And the club was rotting. The ground was rotting. Everything around it was bad. We've hit the reset button in a massive way. We've got rid of loads of the deadwood. Sorry, not sorry, Scott Hogan. Bringing in a whole bunch of players and having a manager that doesn't concern himself with the outside noise. anything to say by the fans, by the media, whether we're going to break this record, break that record, and he's completely and utterly focused on what the team's doing on the pitch. And how animated he is on the touchline. You see him screaming, shouting. And when we had the likes of Rooney, you just see him slumping back in the chair, sitting there. I hate to see it from any manager, I do. I love seeing a manager that wants to get involved and he's demanding at his team every second of the game because he's so hyper-focused. He knows exactly what he wants from his team and he's not scared of telling them as well. And I think we've been missing a manager like that for a very, very long time.
Seems to know what he wants.
Yeah.
And he recognises in particular players. I mean, the one thing that I use as an example of what I'm trying to say here is Bakuna. Now, we all knew Bakuna had like skill. He had, you had that positivity when he came on, but
once every 10 games.
But he was lacking desire. Do you know what I mean? If
Wasn't
the ball wasn't to
consistent
feet, he wouldn't chase back. And Dembele as well.
I wasn't a big fan of Dembele,
which is a shame because like I say, the skill levels they've got. Bakuna didn't even get a look in with Chris Davis. I'd love to have been a fly on the wall in the room when discussions were had around him.
I think it was immediate, really, with Bakuna. I think the writing was already on the wall before Chris Davis.
Never even got a friendly.
Yeah. I don't think Bakuna wanted to stick around. I think with him and players like Dembele, it's just about the individual. I think they're selfish players. What do you call them? Lone walker. What's the term when players just hop from one club to another? I don't know what the term is, but you get what I mean. I feel like Dembele and Bakuna are those sorts of players. They don't really...
Journeyman type thing, isn't it?
Yeah, that's the one. They don't have a home. I remember Ethan Laird doing an interview with Will Brazier. Bit of a shout out there, he's all right, he is. And Ethan Laird was saying, I've been on loan a few times, but I wanted to find a club that can be like a home. And that's brilliant. That's exactly what you want to hear.
But you do have your journeymen that make a career of it. Like, first person that comes to mind, people like, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but Kevin Phillips, he was around different places.
I'm not saying that it's a bad thing, but I think with that...
But you want someone settled, someone to commit.
Definitely. Yeah, you'd prefer that.
But so how do you reckon we got hold of Davis then? I mean, it doesn't matter, but do you reckon he just applied for the job and was looked into? Or
I think Craig Gardner had a huge hand in it.
I'm glad you've mentioned it.
I think Craig Gardner had a massive hand in it. You know, he's been around the game, he's been in the dressing room, he was a player. I think if he had a look at Chris Davis, he would have known, right, I know exactly what that guy's about, we need to have a sharper look at him. It's either that, or Chris Davis has applied for it and just shown himself, the pragmatic, energetic character that he is, who's very, as I say, hyper-focused on his job role. And that's just shown to them, right, this is our guy, this is someone that we really need to bring in, someone that gets stuck in there.
So you're happy we got Davis?
Yeah.
You think we'll keep him?
That's it, isn't it? Yeah, you got to worry about that. I don't think we'll have a problem this year in League One. I would say, I don't want to jinx fate, but if we go up, not when, you've got to be careful with these sorts of things. As you say, getting into the Championship, it'll be at that point. I think another podcast mentioned this. I can't remember which one, but you just want to nail down Chris Davis to another deal.
Well, I was going to say as well, because whatever they're selling at the Blues for these players, they're selling it well.
True. Yeah.
You look at the quality of player we've got in and the quality of coaching Chris Davis that we've got in. He was offered a place in the Championship last year with, I can't remember who it was now, but he was offered a Championship job last season, turned it down. Offered a place with Blues in League One, and we get him. I mean, how special does it make you feel as a club when we've got Knighthead, we've got, Gary Cook. He was involved in setting Man City up to where they are now.
Yeah.
And look at where he's been. We've got, and then we've got like salt of the earth, grassroots that's grown all his way through. Craig Gardner.
You're close.
Yeah. So this mix of like the American owners, a local guy, like running in the background of everything that we want to do, being the eyes and ears of everything that's being set up, and then like you've got someone that's played for us, been around the club for years, been a supporter of the club. That mix, and then we're selling this dream, the project. I'm invested.
It's great, isn't it?
It's superb.
That we've got all of these players, and Jay Stansfield coming back, which honestly, you should have been in that living room on transfer deadline
like
day.
Many others.
It was like a movie, honestly, with looking at Fulham, because if you guys cast your mind back on transfer deadline day, it was all depending on whether Fulham...
a few weeks ago, really.
Could sign... with my memory, I have to say things like that. I can't remember what I had for breakfast. We were dependent on Fulham signing a replacement for Jay. It was an attacking midfielder, and I think that they were in at Leon for a left winger, and there was 15 minutes left of the window, and that had fallen apart. And we was there like, oh, it's not going to happen, it's not coming through, and you know, whatever, Marco Silva's, I think that's him. He was going to say no, he was going to claw him back. It was all on this, and then last second, Reece Nelson cancels with Ipswich, goes through, and that video with Tom Wagner, just the icing on the cake.
Who else does that?
That was absolutely brilliant.
We were like kids watching that.
Do you know what that was?
We were like kids.
That was the Aguero moment of transfer deadline day. I'll never forget that. That was brilliant. I thought that was class. But let's loop back round, because what I was going to say, when they've been speaking to all these players, these amazing players that we've got in, and we can see that their quality, much better than League One, and of course they can sell them the project. Do you think for any of them, a bit of the convincing factor came from the fans? Do you think they've looked at the Blues fans and what this club's all about and seen the atmosphere and gone, do you know what, I want a little bit of that?
We are a passionate bunch, aren't we?
We are a passionate. I think Blues fans.
I mean, do you get
deserve a lot
goosebumps
more
now
credit.
when we stand there? In the beginning of the game, we've been doing that, keep right on the slow version, and I know there's a lot of people
Brilliant.
that don't like this. You can't knock it.
Nah, it's great.
That for me just knocks "You'll Never Walk Alone" out
Yeah.
the water. And I tell you what, Liverpool, I've never knocked them for what they do there, but I get those goosebumps with "Keep Right On." Now.
It's brilliant.
And you see all these young fans coming through and they're singing and.
Sounds beautiful.
Words-
You should
words
take
not
the
needed,
entire
I
of
don't
St
think.
Andrews and put them on X Factor or Britain's Got Talent or something, because I think we'd win the whole thing. Nah, but I think everything at the moment. And do you know what? How long overdue has it really been?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we do. I don't think any club should ever say that they're entitled or deserving of anything, but I mean, we've got to be close to it, surely. I mean, how close have we been to the trapdoor of extinction? You know, and how it's turned around in seemingly real quick succession as well. I mean, that's the magic of football, I suppose. It is crazy.
Exactly, and I want to wrap it up there because I don't want to bore anyone too much and go on too much, and hopefully we're certainly not doing that, but there's a lot we want to talk about going forward, Blues fans, and if you're interested and if there's anything you want to bring up, we'd be happy to talk about it. We're not experts, we're just passionate Blues fans.
I want to get some comments as well. Leave a comment, just say something.
Yeah, say nice things.
Yeah. But if you can.
If you've got nothing nice to say, just leave it. Put likes. Apparently that means something. But there are things, so there's going to be lots of discussions. We're going to talk about the games, we're going to talk about predictions and stuff like that. So anything you want to mention before we go? We could just go on about Nighthead, we could go on about what's happening down the Blues.
Yeah.
And obviously as things evolve and move on, we will. But hopefully we got a nice little start to what we're going to talk about, and we can move on from there, eventually keep it rolling.
Yeah. Well, you started the video off, so I'm going to end it. Thank you very much for watching. Like, subscribe, and see you next time on BlueTube.